This story begins in a city bustling with a very large crowd of people. Everyone walking around, and it's sounding like everyone's having a good time. We see a boy within these streets holding on to a bowl as he's walking through, and he says to himself, "I've managed to gather this much today. Since it's a fair being held today, it's more or less fine. Now then, shall I search for a place to sleep tonight? My name is pple. I'm 14 years old. I'm an orphan, a drifter who aimlessly roams the lands. No foundation, no residence." As P.O. is walking through the streets, he's thinking to himself, was the bridge I saw earlier in this direction? What's going on? Where the hell am I at? P.O. stops abruptly, and as he's looking up, he notices that his way is being blocked by a shadowy figure. The large man standing in front of P.O. in a hat, face veiled behind a screen, is looking down at P.O. P.O. is looking at the man and he asks, "Who?" Before he can get anything else out, the man looks down at P.O. and he says nothing. In the next scene, P.O. is laying sprawled out on the ground, darkness everywhere. He sees nothing. He says nothing. He then closes his eyes and then he opens them again and he's looking out and he's thinking to himself, "I'm sure my eyes are open. I haven't been blinded. I'm in the darkness. Where am I?" Not only that, but a pitch black space without a single ray of light in sight. Where the hell is this place? As he's thinking this, he gets a sharp pain throughout his head, painful enough to where tears are starting to well up in his eyes. He notices that I can't move an inch, struggling to muster up any strength to lift just a finger. He's failed. He's motionless, and he's still thinking to himself, why did this happen? What is going on? He thinks back to the city streets that he was on before he woke up in this place, the bowl of food that he had in his hands, and the large man standing in the shadows. Earlier on that road, that man. The only thing that the man said to P.O. before he lost consciousness was, "You look useful." P.O. continues to think to himself, he must have something to do with this place and why I'm like this. But I don't even know who he is or what his name is. Why did he trap me in here? I don't remember earning any grudges. What's going on? I haven't messed with nobody. As P.O. is continuing to think to himself, he's breathing hard. His breath is a bit shallow. He must have some sort of goal then. Not to kill me, but some other goal. My name is P.O. I'm 14. My father's name is P.O. Hawk. My mother's name is Lee C.O. Hong. P.O. continues to think over and over again to himself. He says, "It's dark. It's too dark. Did I lose consciousness? Or was I awake this whole time? I don't know how much time has passed." Tears continue to fill the eyes of P.O. as he sits in this pitch black darkness. I'm scared and lonely. I have no choice but to remind myself of who I am, just to stay sane. My name is P.O. But for how long? How long must I stay like this? It comes to a point where P.O. is starting to feel his stomach and he thinks to himself, I'm hungry. I'll die from starvation at this rate. I'll either die from starvation or insanity. Did he want me to starve to death? What did I do wrong to deserve this? I didn't beg the man for anything. Then why? Why is he, even if I'm just some beggar with nothing to my name, there's no reason for him to throw me into this hell? And as he's continuing to struggle, P.O. begins to wiggle his fingers, just a bit, ever so slightly. He's looking down at his hands, eyes continuing to water as he struggles to muster up just a little more strength, just a little more to continue to move his hand. He's thinking to himself, I've succeeded. I've moved my hand, breathing hard and a little bit better. He's happy because he notices that he can breathe a lot easier now. My bodily senses are returning. He starts to smell a bit, sniffing the area around him, noticing that it's a damp smell. His feet begin to move, a little wiggle here, a little wiggle there. The ground is cold. His hands are feeling the ground around him and his surroundings. And he's come to the understanding that he's underground, water trickling down from the top of the cave. He begins to hear sounds and the vibrations of those sounds. He's getting a better picture in his head of where he's at and what he's hearing. The sound of water drops. I have to drink. I have to. As he's struggling to move around his body, dehydrated, no strength, he manages to flip himself over. The pain of his body being dehydrated and hungry, no energy at all, but he manages to flip over on his stomach and he begins to crawl to where he hears the water dropping to the ground. I can do it, just a little more, As he continues to struggle, Fatigue sets in on his body. He's huffing and he's sweating heavy just from trying to crawl upward to the stream. I have to survive. I have to. He continues to struggle more. I have to survive. I'm going to survive. And with all his efforts, his struggles, he manages to crawl up to what he sees and feels as a stone wall. It's rock solid. As he's feeling the walls, the cracks a bit sharp, and he splits his finger. There's blood. What the hell was that? It's no use. Whew. Pyo still lays in the dark. He hears nothing. He's not moving. But then a figure shows up in front of him. Pyo looks up at the figure, and he's wondering to himself, who the hell is this? After asking who, he notices that it is himself looking down on him. And Pyo asks himself, why are you trying so hard to survive? Pyo, eyes wide, not believing what he is seeing, says nothing. The after image of Pyo says it's laughable. What's so great about your worthless life for you to be struggling so much? Give up. If you give up, you will be at peace. Pyo says to the after image, will I really be at peace? The after image says, what? Pyo asks himself once again, will I really be at peace if I let it all go? I don't think so. I'm going to survive. The after image, squinting his eyes at Pyo, tells him, you're wasting your strength. Pyo tells the after image, I won't be at peace if I die like this. If I die without even stabbing the one who trapped me in here, I won't ever be able to close my eyes, not even in death. I'm going to survive. I'm going to survive until the bitter end, until I get my revenge on everyone who made me this way. The after image, curious, says, are you really going to take revenge? Pyo says yes. You're not going to give up. Pyo says never. And the after image of Pyo says nothing. He only smiles at himself. Pyo finally wakes up and he's thinking to himself, as I thought, I still can't see a thing. Was that a dream earlier? Or was I actually going insane? Struggling to muster up the strength to lift himself up. He manages to sit up. Body is still trembling due to the lack of energy and strength and sustenance. But still, his willpower is still strong. I have to survive, thinks Pyo. These things that are growing from where the water is dripping, are these moss? I don't know whether these are edible or not, but I have to eat something. I have to eat to survive, says Pyo as he musters up the strength to eat the moss growing from the walls. How can something taste so bad? How can this taste like? Pyo struggles to swallow down the green moss. About to throw up his guts, he's thinking to himself, my body feels fine though. It's edible. I have to eat. I have to. As Pyo grabs more moss from the walls, he's choking down what he can just to fill his gut. Sweating profusely as he's doing it, he's continuing to think to himself, I'm going to survive. I will survive. Whatever it takes. Seemingly with a bit more strength, Pyo is now up on his feet and he's walking. And he's walking and feeling the walls as he's trying to find his way through the darkness. This place, according to my calculations, is roughly a 3x3 jang space. And here is a footnote that a jang is Korean length of measurement. One jang equals about 3.03 meters. As I thought, I'm trapped. Someone trapped me in here, thinks Pyo as he's walking around. What? He hears something. This sound. An iron door. What the? He sees light coming from the door. And as he's looking at the light, he is blinded by seeing the light. Even so, I have to go. Over here, there's someone in here. As he's making his way toward the light, he thinks to himself, a little more. Just a little more. What? A shadow. What is that? And abruptly the hatch closes. Back within the darkness, Pyo is looking at the door. His eyes watering. He's breathing hard, but he notices there's a smell, and that smell is wafted through the air. His eyes are a bit wide. He thinks to himself, this smell, the smell of food. We then see a bowl sitting in front of the hatch, and Pyo notices the bowl on the ground, and he's looking at it, and he's closing his eyes. Then he's thinking to himself, rotten fish, tea leaves, and pork, probably meat left over from the bone. It's at least 5 different kinds of leftovers. One person eating 5 different kinds of food is highly unlikely. So it's not just one person. He thinks to himself as he envisions that there are multiple people. That means there is no way I'm the only one trapped here. 5 or more people trapped me in here for a specific purpose. In that case, there is no way that I'm the only one trapped here. It's highly inefficient to make a space like this only to trap me. Therefore, there are at least 5 managers, and it's likely that there are more than 5 people in the same situation as I am. Just what is their goal? Hot spices and pork, Sichuan food? After thinking this, he says nothing else, and he begins to gorge on the food. I have plenty of time. I'll think about it after I eat. It's better than the moss at least. The bowl falls to the ground, and he's finished his meal, licking his lips in satisfaction. P.O. is now doing push-ups within the darkness, handstand push-ups, getting them gains in. It's been at least 4 months since I've been trapped here. Once a day, they open a small door to provide food. Besides that, they never say a word. They continue to imprison me in this narrow and dark space. P.O. thinks to himself as he's continuing to do his push-ups till he can no longer do another push-up. He falls to the ground. I thought I would go insane from being put in a situation like this, but I haven't been spending my time doing absolutely nothing. I've become able to see my surroundings just a little bit. I'm somewhat adapting to this pitch black environment. I can see things moving in the underground space. P.O. thinks to himself as he notices a little creepy crawly crawling right in front of his feet. So many insects live in a place like this, without a single ray of light shining through. Are those centipedes? P.O. thinks to himself, not noticing the red eyes shining within the darkness. But we see a slither and we see white scales. And as it coils itself around the hand of P.O., he then notices and he's a bit flustered. He looks down at his hands and he hears a hissing sound, a familiar sound. And he sees those familiar eyes looking back at him with that tongue hissing at him. The snake bites down on P.O.'s arm. P.O., feeling the pain, grabs at his arm. His body's starting to tremble and he's yelling out, "What the fuck? What's happening? My entire body feel like it's on fire. Could it be snake venom? This pain." P.O. can feel nothing but the burning sensation of the snake venom coursing through his veins, pain surging profusely throughout his body. He then lays there motionless within the pitch black darkness. Another day has passed, and we see a familiar hand from the door latch, handing him another bowl of some food. He drops the bowl. Before it hits the ground, P.O. catches the bowl, grimacing and in pain, eyes low-key bloodshot. He's huffing and he's breathing hard. He's still, even though he is in this excruciating pain, he's still thinking to himself, I will not die, no matter what. Those familiar eyes looking at him from the darkness as he gorges on the food in front of him. The snake makes no movements, just looks at P.O. P.O. sits in the darkness, and as he's sitting, he's staring at the snake. And as he's staring at the snake, he's thinking to himself, so that's what it looked like. I almost seriously died because of that thing's venom. But I think some sort of change occurred within my body during the detoxifying process. I can see a bit better now in front of me. It's fascinating. As P.O. reaches out his hand at the snake, he thinks, is it really because of this guy? The snake begins to get into a posture, ready to attack, begins to shriek at P.O. as his hand gets closer. I've heard stories of people becoming stronger from surviving after being poisoned before. If I gain resistance to poison, if I can gain a weapon. As the snake bites down on P.O.'s hand again, we see the venom beginning to course through his veins once again as the snake lets him go and his veins is bulging from the skin. We see the poison rapidly making its way up the arm of P.O. and P.O. grimacing heavily from the pain. He's fighting the pain. He's thinking to himself, should I not have done this? Should I have been more careful? My entire body feels like it's on fire. Gritting his teeth, sweating profusely. He says, but even so, it's not as bad as the first time I was bitten. He begins to smile a bit as he looks at the snake looking at him, and P.O. wondering. Its eyes have degenerated from the darkness, but it's an exceptional hunter. It stealthily approaches its prey, and sometimes even incapacitates its prey using sound. But even so, it isn't greedy. After it finishes its meal, it doesn't make the mistake of chasing the insects away by intimidating them. I guess the only one who have intelligence in the darkness are you and I, thinks P.O. as he's sitting upright in the darkness, and the poison that was in his body has seemingly calmed down. There's a vibration throughout the walls, and Pio stands up abruptly, his eyes a bit wide, wondering what's going on. Could this vibration be? And as he's looking and he's staring, his eyes wide, trying to peer through the darkness, the door open. We can see Pio making his way down the hall, and he notices another door, thinking to himself, the next room is 20 steps away. I guess that's why I couldn't sense the presence of others. And as he opens the door, he begins to sniff, and as he's sniffing, he's smelling, and he thinks to himself, this smell. There's a corpse in the middle of the room. Pio noticing, thinking to himself, the smell of rotten flesh. I can't tell in much detail, but from their build, they're around my age. I wonder if it's the same for the other rooms. Pio continues to make his way down the hallway, and he's walking around and he comes to a pause. He stops and he's looking at another door, a bigger door, an iron door blocking the hallway. The bolts were taken out. He begins to open the door, and as the door creaks open, Pio makes his way through, and he's a bit shocked, a bit flustered, something that he didn't expect to see. There's more people down here. He says nothing. As he's looking forward and standing in the doorway, the two individuals that he has just now met, one girl sitting down and another boy looking at him, everyone staring at each other. Pio walks up toward them. They get a bit nervous. Pio says nothing. He's just walking around and he's looking around. Looking inside some of the other rooms, he notices the corpse sitting in the rooms, and he's thinking, it's the same thing here. The girl asks Pio, who are you? Where did you come from? He and I are the only survivors here. Pio notices that she's looking this way, but she can't see me in the darkness. It seems like I'm the only one who's fully adapted to it. Pio tells the girl, my name is Pio Wool. I was trapped in the adjacent sector. Are you saying there are more places like this? Says the girl. Looks like it, says Pio. What are your names? The girl says, I'm So Yo Woo, and he's Song Cheon Woo. Pio says nothing. As he begins to walk past him, he says, let's go. The girl turns to Pio and she says, go where? Pio says, without turning around, there are probably more places like this. Oh my God, there really is, says Cheon Woo. Follow me. As he continues to walk down the hallway, both So Yo Woo and Cheon Woo say nothing as they look at Pio. So Yo Woo, she says, since it's dark, hold my hand, talking to Cheon Woo. Cheon Woo complies, and as they're holding hands walking down the hallway following Pio, they come to another door, and as they open the door, we notice that there's more kids down here. They all begin to talk amongst themselves. Pio passes up the crowd as they begin to talk, still looking around, trying to figure out what the situation is. They've committed suicide instead. There are more bowls and food here than where I was. Were they discriminating? What could they possibly be planning to discriminate against in management between sectors? So Yo Woo says, Pio, these guys were also trapped around the same time we were. Her name is Lee Min, Go Shinok, and Pio taking the lead and walking down the cave, and the rest of the group follows him. They all come to another door, and as Pio puts his hand on the door, he then opens it, and there is a large flood of light that comes out of the door, blinding everyone in the group. A lot of them covering their faces, saying, my eyes, my eyes. Pio himself, tears starting to well up in his eyes just from being blinded by the light, thinks to himself, the outside. No. We're still underground. We've been underground for so long that even the light from the torch blinds us. And as he's beginning to get a better picture of the situation, he's a bit shocked and flustered. The first one to see such a scenery. There's a large mansion within this underground. The group all begins to walk toward the house, and Pio, looking around himself, says there's no one here. So Yo Woo says, you're right. Hell is going on. Pio thinking to himself, it's flimsy. It was made in a hurry. It was just made for appearances. The interior was poorly made. Why? Pio Woo, someone calls his name, right? And there's another girl with light blue eyes looking at Pio, and she tells him, I'm Lee Min. I'll be in your care from now on. Pio says nothing as he looks at Lee Min, and as she puts her hands on his face, she asks him, were they like this from the start? Pio, looking at her and a bit flustered himself, says, what? What were? She says, your eyes. Your red pupils, they're beautiful. My pupils are red? Are they bright red? Pio is thinking to himself, does it have something to do with me being bitten by that snake? It's not good to be different from others in a place like this. Lee Min tells him, no, it's faintly red when there's a torch nearby, but it's not very visible normally. It looks like you didn't know. It must have happened to you when you were in here then. P.O. is thinking to himself, a bit relieved. Thank goodness. What are you thinking so hard about? Says Lee Min. Just this and that, says P.O. You are different from the other kids, says Lee Min, and P.O. says, how so? With a smile on her face, she says, you just are. We're all confused, but you're the only one that's thinking. So Yeo Woo comes over to P.O. and Lee Min and she asks them, what are you two doing over here? Lee Min says, talking. And So, I'ma just call her So for short, family. I ain't gonna hold you. So Yeo Woo, that's a mouthful. And at the same time, there's a lot of names I'm gonna have to try to remember, you know what I mean, for the story. So we just gonna call her So for short. And So replies, talking. It's about this and that. So is a bit confused as she looks at the pair. She says nothing. She then says the other kids have decided to stick together from now on. What do you guys want to do? About what? Says P.O. You're going to stick with us, right? Says So. P.O. at first says nothing. And then he says, we'll see. So, a bit taken aback, says, you'll see? Are you saying you don't want to come with us? P.O. clarifies. I'm just saying that I'll wait and see how things go. So says nothing. Then she looks at him and she says, okay, feel free to come see me if you change your mind. What about you? As she turns and looks at Lee Min. And Lee Min says, all right, I'll join you. Sticking together is much more advantageous for survival than being alone. And So says, good choice. P.O. says nothing. He's thinking to himself. They've been isolated in the dark for far too long. There's no way they're right in their head. Even I can't believe it. But the others, I'll just watch from afar for now. It's only been a short while since the kids saw each other's faces. Several groups have already been formed. There's the group with So Yeo Woo and Song Cheon Woo as the key members. The other group that Kang Il leads. And then there's another group that gathered with Yeom Il Jong as its focus. The group with Go Yeong Sang as its head, and one kid who isn't part of any group. We hear some of the boys from one of the groups talking amongst themselves. I heard the sector he was in had no survivors. How did he even survive when everyone else died? Could he have killed them all? And the fact that he's not joining any group. P.O. hearing the talk as he's walking away, just thinks to himself, the world is the same wherever you go. I don't have the leeway to pay any mind to those guys right now. Somewhere in the building, we see P.O. walking and he's feeling his hand against the walls where the moss grows. I'm sure this building was made recently. However, since there are a ton of moss, it means that this underground space was built a very long time ago. And someone has reused it recently. Whoever it is, they must be extremely wealthy. It's not something that an average person can do. And suddenly, we see a bit of light coming from the top of the ceiling. P.O. notices this and he thinks to himself, light from the ceiling? The rest of the kids within the cave as well notices. And everyone begins to gather underneath the light. We see a basket being lowered down. The kids talking amongst themselves. Look up there. Is that a basket descending from the ceiling? What? We see that there's a lot of food packed within this basket. And the kids rejoicing because they finally get a taste of some real food. Everyone begins to glare at the basket. Hands getting ready to reach in. It's food. Let's eat. Let's eat. Wait. We see a hand covering the food. So Yeo Woo and Cheon Woo both blocking the way from getting the food. The rest of the kids instantly start to get a bit irate. Saying, what the hell? Move your hand right now. And So tells the group, why don't we distribute it fairly amongst all of us? One of the group leaders, as he's walking up, says nothing, looks a bit menacing. The rest of the group leaders all remain silent. They all come together in a group. And So, being the head representative, basically tells them, as the representatives, let's distribute it. Wait, says P.O. from the back of the crowd. I'm gonna take my share too. He then walks up to the basket and he reaches within the basket and tries to grab his share of the food. One of the representatives grabs him by the hand and he tells him, put that down. P.O. says nothing. He glares at the boy and the group leader tells him, no one may take food from this basket without our permission. Everything in this basket will be under our control. P.O. looking at the boy says nothing. Everyone looking at this situation playing out. P.O. slaps the boy from grabbing his hands. And as he reaches back, he grabs the boy by his face. And as he's grabbing him by the face, slams him into the ground. Blood starting to come out the boy's mouth and his nose. And P.O. looks at him And he says, "What the hell did you say? Say that again." The boy screaming, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" And P.O. with his hand still wrapped around the throat and the face of this boy says, "I told you to say that again." Still, the screams of the representative can be heard throughout the cave, and the rest of the crowd saying, "Let go of him, you crazy son of a bitch. Let go of him right now." P.O. says nothing. He just looks up at the crowd, glaring at them, with his hands still around the throat and his hands still around the face and eyes of this representative. As he's screaming out, the rest of the crowd says he's insane. And we see the avatar of the snake that was down within the caves with P.O. and their glare and their eyes glistening red within the darkness. The crowd just thinks to themselves collectively, "This bastard, hasn't he gone completely mad?" So Yeon-woo walking up to P.O. asks him, "Please, let go of him. He can't answer you that way." And P.O. says, "Why should I?" So says, "He should have understood after you did that much." "And what about the food?" says P.O. "No one will touch your share," she reassures him. "Right?" she asks the other representatives. And they comply. As P.O. let goes of the representative face, Yeom Il-jung is just sitting on the ground, holding his face, his bloodied eyes. And he's looking up at P.O. and he's staring intently at P.O. and he says, "You son of a bitch." P.O., with a calm expression, tells him, "What? You want the same thing done to your other eye? Feel free to bring it on if you wish to go blind." "Crazy bastard," says Il-jung. As we see all of the kids sitting and enjoying their food, P.O. is sitting alone, and he's looking at the rest of them. He's thinking to himself as he's eating, "This is a test to filter out the useful children. It was like that from the start, and I'm sure it will continue until they fulfill their goal. Many children will die in the process. They're all going to become my enemies if it comes to that anyway." As we can see, the whole group collectively all talking amongst themselves. So comes to P.O. and she asks him, "How have you been lately? Are you still alright even after you've made everyone here your enemy? After you did that, many children left Yeom Il-jung's group, and your group became the biggest one," says P.O. She said, "Huh? I thought you weren't interested since you've kept your distance, but I guess you've been keeping watch this whole time. As much as you guys show interest in me, I'm also keeping watch on you guys," says P.O. as he's looking at So. She eats the least after securing the most food for her group. That's why the other children are so loyal to So Yeol-woo. She no doubt stands out the most among the leaders. So Yeol-woo asks P.O., "Are you still living in that dark room because of the other children are wary of you?" P.O. says it's comfy there. So says, "I see," thinking to himself, "I wanted to gain more tolerance to the poison as well. Well, since being bitten is no longer painful, I guess I've become more or less resistant to it." So asks P.O., "Why don't you join our group instead of staying by yourself like this?" "I believe I've already answered that question. Shouldn't your answer change depending on the situation?" says So. It's meal time. "I hope none of you idiots decide to get in the basket this time. If you don't want to fall to your death after they cut the rope while it's going up, that is," says one of the leaders. And as they all look inside the basket, everyone notices and is a bit shocked. One saying, "What the hell? Why is there only this much?" And unlike before, there's only a small portion of food, not enough to fill the bellies of all the children trapped underground. So noticing this, is a bit shocked herself and she says, "What?" P.O. unbothered because knowing the situation beforehand, he just thinks to himself, "It's begun." Mak no Sam is a boy who survived in the final sector and entered the group that Yeol-woo leads. He had the smallest build in her group, but he pulled his way through sheer tenacity. And that Mak no Sam was found dead. Who the hell would do this? I won't forgive the son of a bitch who did this. As we see Yeol-woo's group in tears, heartbroken at the sight of their member laid out dead on the floor. Everyone knew why. The reason why Mak no Sam died. Simply because he was the weakest. So Yeol-woo and Cheon-woo, both looking down at Mak no Sam's body covered, both say nothing. Cheon-woo, angry, says, "Damn it, we'd take revenge if we knew who did this." Yeol-woo says it doesn't matter who. That's not the important part. What's important is that someone who follows us is now dead. Cheon-woo says, "You." And Yeol-woo, eyes wide, with anger and rage, says we have to take revenge in the exact same way. The weakest of another group will be killed next, thinks pple as he's looking at the group. A war has started. Ultimately, the weakest of Go Yeon-san's group was found dead. This was only the beginning. Every time a night passed, someone was found dead. One of So Yeo-woo's, then one of Yeon Il-jung's, Go Yeon-san's, and Kang Il's group. They continued to die. The children started to distrust each other, and they became as savage as demons from starvation. pple, still grabbing at moss from the walls and snacking on it within the caves, thinks to himself, disgusting. I can never get used to this taste. The starved children still haven't come this far. And we see a light from a torch down the hallway. And pple, noticing the footsteps, thinks to himself, but I'm sure that the peace will end soon. We see more footsteps walking down the hallway. pple, noticing, says they're here. 1, 2, at least 4 of them. There's no way they came this far by getting lost. Are you sure this is the place? Yes, I'm certain, says one of Il-jung's group members. I saw him come and go this way with my own eyes. As they are all walking around a bit nervous, Il-jung angrily says, where the hell is that son of a bitch? I've killed 2 people after our fight. Now, pple War, it's the perfect time to take revenge. Where is he? Il-jung and his group members continue to walk down the hallway looking for pple, and one of the members start to scream out, what the hell? Huh? Says Il-jung as he turns around. Something bit my leg, the boy says as he staggers a bit backwards. He falls to the ground. One of the other members, looking down at him, asks him, what the hell happened? What's wrong? And as we see the snake slithering away, no one knows what's going on, but they know that their fellow group member is dead, on the ground foaming at the mouth. Il-jung, noticing, screams out, there's something here, all of you watch out. The torch falls to the ground. The one holding it is now gone. Il-jung screams out, son of a bitch, where are you? Where the hell are you, goddamn rat? And pple, peering from the shadows, appears behind another one of Il-jung's members, grabs the boy by the neck, and Il-jung, turning around but not in time, sees pple choking out one of his members in front of him. Those eyes staring at Il-jung, and Il-jung sweating profusely, nervous. He's not doing anything, not making a move, as he stares at pple, his fist clenched, his body trembling with rage. He says, you bastard, let Jong-gar go this instant. The boy's eyes starting to water from being suffocated, and pple, looking at the boy, says at this rate, he'll die. He continues to clench even harder, and the boy continuing to struggle, and I'll become a murderer, thinks pple. It might be alright to not kill him right now, but snap, we hear the cracking of the boy's neck, and his body goes limp as he falls to the ground. Il-jung, shocked, says nothing, mouth wide open as he sees his fallen member. And pple, staring at Il-jung, says I'll have to kill someone sooner or later anyway. Il-jung, eyes beginning to turn red, says, you bastard, you killed all of my men, you goddamn demon. pple, unbothered, says nothing. Il-jung, staring at pple with a bit of fear in his face, rushes in at pple, coming in for an attack, screams out, die. And as he swings and he swings and he's continuing to swing at pple dodging all of the attacks. Il-jung, coming in for another move, reaches his hand back and he swings again at pple managing to dodge the attack, and Il-jung noticing that he hit nothing. As he's looking and he's a bit confused in the darkness, wondering where pple has gone. He's looking around and he's saying, where are you? Where did you go? Stop running around like a rat and come out. pple, standing right behind Il-jung, says it won't end with just one eye this time. Il-jung, screaming out in fear, runs away from the situation thinking he will escape. But as he looks back at pple is walking up toward him, and as he slowly makes his way in front of Il-jung, pple says nothing, he just stares at him. And Il-jung, looking at pple, and his eye twitching a bit, the one he lost, sweating profusely. Then he says, wait, let's join forces. pple is a bit confused at hearing this. gives him a bit of an awkward look. And Il-jung says, you won't be able to survive against all of those kids for long. Let's work together. Let's work together. Not even So-Yeol-Woo or Sung Cheon-Woo's group will be a match for us if we work together. P.O. says nothing, and he continues to step toward Il-jung. And Il-jung continuing to plead his case. Says, if you don't like that, then even an underling is fine. I'll become your underling. I'm different from the ones you just killed just now. I'm useful. Use me. P.O. has made his way in front of Il-jung, and he's looking at him, staring at him intently. And he says to him, I'm sure you'll be obedient in the beginning, but I'm also sure that you'll pull the same shit as today as time passes. Il-jung says, you're wrong. I won't never. I'll never. P.O. crouches down to the ground, getting into an attack position, lunges upward and smacks Il-jung right on the chin, low-key breaking the whole under part of his mouth. Il-jung spit coming out of his mouth as he was just slammed up under his chin. And then P.O. quickly wraps around the back and grabs Il-jung by the throat. And as he's choking him out, we hear Il-jung gasping for air as he's trying to breathe, tears and spit coming out of his mouth as he's trying to utter out a word. Spare. His body goes limp. He lays there dead on the ground. And P.O., breathing a little hard, looks down on him. And he says to him, the reason why I killed you is because I'm still weak. As he walks away, eyes glowing red, disappearing into the darkness. Yeom Il-jung's group was disbanded after that situation. And it was because he and all his confidants were all found dead. The other representatives have made their way to this scene and they see this horrific sight of all of the boys laying dead on the ground. They all collectively, without saying anything, thinks to themselves, it's P.O. Woo. He killed Yeom Il-jung. So is thinking to herself, just how strong is he? He killed 4 people on his own. Another one of the representatives thinks to himself, I shouldn't become his enemy. He's cunning and spiteful, thinks another one of the other representatives. He knows exactly what to do to make people fear him. The problem has already gone too far to be solved by distributing the reduced food between us all. People had to be killed to secure food. In the end, everyone has become a murderer. P.O. Woo. He killed Yeom Il-jung, who had power during this show. No one will touch him now. You guys, don't even think about doing anything to P.O. Woo. Don't even approach him. What could possibly be more terrifying than someone with nothing to protect? His members looking at him all say collectively, understood. One of the boys come running up to his group, saying, boss. And he says, what are you running like that for? There are 2 kids over there at the Red House in the north. I think they've been banished from So-Yeol-Woo's group. Are you sure? Yes, I checked several times. What about their food? They have a potato in their arms. They'll eat it all if we don't hurry in there. Boss, let's go, says the other group members. A potato? Oh, that's us. The leader of the group thinks to himself, killing someone for just 1 potato. All right, all of you, get ready. And in another area of the building underground, we see the 2 kids sitting out on the steps, and they're both sharing the 1 potato amongst themselves. The group is looking at them, saying, looking at the potato, we see everybody with a maniacal-like look in their face of starvation, ready to immerse themselves. The group leader says, hey, what the? And the group, without even hearing them out, says, kill them all and take it. The 2 kids sitting on the steps, noticing the group coming at them, screaming, begins to run away. And the group beginning to chase after them, says, stop right there. Don't let them escape. The boss, sitting, staring at his group, running after the 2 kids. Stop, hand over that potato. The boss man is the only one to notice something strange. His position is disadvantageous for us. One of the kids running away begins to whistle. And as she's whistling out, we see 2 other members jumping from the windows, and they come in with their swords raised, beginning the ambush. The boss man, noticing this, screams out, no! Boom! One of the kids gets slammed in the back of the neck with the stick, instantly knocks him out as he falls to the floor. The other members notice that they're being ambushed, and the boss man looking at the group, yells out, "Damn it, it's a trap. All of you retreat." But right after saying this, there's a group coming from behind him and he notices that he's been surrounded. And so Yeo Wu, walking up, says, "We caught quite a big fish, and with a single potato, haven't we? Looks like we can reduce the amount of mouths that need to be fed today by a lot even." The leader of the group says, "What a blunder." And with a grimace on his face, he says, "Bastards, how dare you?" Co Yeo Wu, unbothered, just looks at him, and he looks at her. And calming down, he bows his head. Looking down, he asks, "So, can you be satisfied with just my life? I beg you." So, looking at the leader, says, "I'd like to listen to your request, but we can't afford that much food." With a bit of an angry look in his face, he said, "Will you only be satisfied after you kill them all? You would have done the same thing in my position." Says so. And as she turns around to walk away, she says, "Kill all of them." And as the group begins to swarm in on the leader, they all yell out collectively, "Kill him." Boom! Boom! We see fights going on here and there, and the group struggling to stay alive, but to no avail, as Cheon Woo and the other leader representative is fighting amongst themselves. And So, standing off in the background just watching, she looks upward, looking at Pyo, who is sitting all by himself. Pyo, looking down at So, says, "I see how it is. Battles using the terrain, various shortcuts and tricks, building placements which make infiltration impossible as long as there is competent security. This is an addition of the place that exists, or a carbon copy. The people who made this place want us to become accustomed to it and used to killing people. They're trying to make use of us in a terrain like this someday. If there is a huge house like this, then that means that this is the manner of a large clan of the Jianggu or a very influential figure. The consequences will be massive if they attack this place recklessly. That's why they're using us. We're tools they can throw away after using once. They've thrown us into this hell and then completely demolishing our nature. The tools that they want. They're raising us to be assassins." Yo. Family, listen to me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was gonna come in so I don't even know. This intro took me a minute to kind of get through in my head how I was gonna go about it. But I'm not gonna be too overly hype. You feel me? Even though I got this snake bite that my family next to me just handed me, mixed with this grandpa's old cough medicine. Strikingly powerful it is. For whatever reason, I said, "Listen, give me a bit of that." He was like, "All right, bet, gangster." And now I'm over here low-key regretting it. Forgive me. I'm a little gone right now. But I am happy too, though. And I'm low-key fake celebrating the fact that I'm back on the grind. All right? Let me just say it. I've been off the whole YouTube, thing for some personal reasons, some hardcore reasons at that. But we ain't going to get into it. Listen, I'm not calling for no sympathy. So I'm not gonna go too deep into it. My family off camera that I've spoken to, my family from across the wayside down around the corner, you feel me? They understand where I'm coming from, what's been going on. But to my YouTube family, let me at least just tell you like this. Yo, do you know where the majority of people fall down in connection with their faith? You understand? In connection with one's faith, do you know where the majority of people fail? They always when they're defeated, and they accept that defeat as being something that they can't do anything about. I've been there. It's been tough lately. I've been defeated a lot lately. And at some points, it was times where I was like, I don't know if I can do, I don't know what's going on. All in the same year. But the Almighty is usually one to put situations, hardcore situations in front of us to kind of see if, and to let us know ourselves, to see ourselves as we are, if whether or not we be man or we be worm. Worms being those that crumble under the hardcore, intense situation that causes one to do critical thinking. I'm not one to accept whatever life hands me. And I'm not going to let my family go out like that. Henceforth and forthwith, I had to take time away from the YT to kind of bring up and help my OG get back on his feet. He's up in age, and it's incumbent upon me as the eldest son in the family and as the pillar of the family to kind of make sure he come back strong. Had a surgery, it went decent. He's making his comeback strong. So now that I'm used to schedules and how I'm gonna do this, I can put back time into what I'm enjoying most, which is making content for you people. It's been killing me softly. Not being able to hit the edits. Just editing in general. You know what I mean? You don't even got to be manga, but I love editing. It's like a newfound, it's like a newfound hobby, a love, something that I cherish. And I've now since learned that not editing, it hurts the spirit. How else can I describe it? Anyway, let's not get too emotional. I'm acting emotional, forgive me. But you can also say I'm emotional because I'm happy to see you, family. For real though. Look, listen, my bad. We back in the game. I'm going to try to make this thing, consistent like it fake decently was back when I started. You know what I mean? Other than that, YT, YouTube, listen, I blurted out a bunch of the cuss words. You know what I'm saying? I went a little crazy in some of my older videos. Okay, I get it. So I'm going to try to work on that. That's my fault. I can't blame y'all for everything, but it is what it is. Let's turn over a new leaf. Get off your boy back if you are on it. You feel me? I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying.